threat because of those provisions that we could not agree upon. But again, I'd like to reiterate my thank you to Chairman Turner and to all our members of our subcommittee, and I look forward to this debate, and I will yield back to the gentleman.
The gentlelady's time has expired. Gentleman from California.
Mr. Chairman, I yield 2 minutes to my friend and colleague, the chairman of the Subcommittee on Sea Power and Projection Forces, the gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Aiken.
Gentleman from Missouri is recognized for 2 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, I rise in support of House Resolution 1540, the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2012. In review of the portions of the President's budget request relevant to sea power and projection forces, the subcommittee this year held hearings on the Navy shipbuilding plan and on the amphibious warfare, along with briefings on the replacement for the Ohio-class ballistic missile submarine, the expeditionary fighting vehicle, and the new long-range strike bomber. Being a maritime nation, we must support our troops with supplies delivered by sea and by air while maintaining the global reach to do so. Protection of the sea lanes of communication, projection of credible combat power, forward presence, and humanitarian assistance. All are capabilities supplied by forces for which the subcommittee has oversight and where it must focus. This bill provides for a multi-year procurement of Arleigh Burke-class destroyers. It funds 10 ships, which were in the President's budget request. It also has provisions which would inject some discipline in programs just starting, such as the amphibious vehicle, which will replace the canceled expeditionary fighting vehicle, and the Navy's unmanned carrier-launched airborne surveillance and strike system. I urge my colleagues to support this bill. I wish to thank the members of the subcommittee, particularly my ranking member, Mr. McIntyre. I yield the floor.
Gentleman yields back his time. Gentleman from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm now pleased to yield 2.5 minutes to the gentleman from Rhode Island, Mr. Langeman, who is the ranking member on the Terrorism Subcommittee.
Gentleman from Rhode Island is recognized for 2.5 minutes.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. I first want to begin by thanking Chairman McKeon and Ranking Member Smith, as well as the chairman of my subcommittee on emerging threats and capabilities subcommittee, Chairman Mac Thornberry, for putting forward a bill that truly supports our men and women in combat, enhances our national security, and is in keeping with the true bipartisan history of the House Armed Services Committee. While I don't agree with every provision, of course, in the bill, I am proud that both parties work together to reach compromises on many measures that support our national defense. As the ranking member of the Emerging Threats and Capability Subcommittee, I'm especially pleased to support our armed forces' unique global reach around the world and in cyberspace. I've also been, of course, a longtime supporter of our Special Operations Forces, and the incredible raid on Osama bin Laden's compound several weeks ago is a true testament to their patriotism, their training, and their strength and their dedication, and I commend them for their incredible work. These brave men and women are a critically unique asset to our national security, and this bill affirms our commitment to supporting their efforts. This mark also prioritizes the Department's cybersecurity efforts, which have been a long time been a chief focus of mine, by strengthening provisions to protect our nation from insider threats, analyzing threats to military readiness, vulnerabilities in critical infrastructure, and increasing cooperation with international allies and domestic partners. Regrettably, there are also separate provisions included that deeply concern me. From attempts to derail the successful repeal of DOD's Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy, to measures tying the President's hands over decisions about our nuclear arsenal and the closure of Guantanamo Bay. It's my hope that these issues would be further considered and improved upon by the Conference Committee. However, overall, this bill reflects the recognition of the Congress of the incredible sacrifices that our brave men and women in uniform make for our country every day. And I am certainly honored to be a part of this process, and I certainly look forward to supporting this bill as it moves through the legislative process and into law. Again, I want to thank Chairman McKeon and Ranking Member Smith for their leadership, as well as the chairman of my subcommittee, Mac Thornberry, who worked truly in a bipartisan fashion. Thank you, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from California.
Mr. Chairman, I yield 3 minutes to my friend and colleague, the chairman of the subcommittee on readiness, the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Forbes.
Gentleman from Virginia is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to first thank the gentleman for yielding and for his leadership in bringing this very bipartisan bill to the floor. Over the last several months, the Armed Services Readiness Subcommittee has attempted to answer one question: are we ready? I believe this bill makes several significant improvements to the readiness posture of our armed forces and remedies many of the shortfalls we found. The bill takes several steps to ensure that U.S. troops are properly trained and their equipment is properly maintained so they can succeed in their missions and have the facilities and services they deserve when they return home. It also makes needed adjustments to civilian personnel policy and service contracting and promotes energy security and ensures that projects offer the best return on investment to the taxpayer. The bill fully supports the President's request for expanded training as dwell times increase, the continued reset of combat-damaged Army and Marine Corps equipment, and military construction and family housing. The legislation also makes notable investments in Navy ship and aircraft depot maintenance, facility sustainment and modernization, Army base operations, Guard and Reserve flight training, and Air Force weapon system sustainment. To increase the readiness of our depots, the bill includes several of the recommendations included in the study on the future capability of the Department of Defense maintenance depots directed by the Duncan Hunter National Defense Authorization Act, Fiscal Year 2009. Mr. Chairman, we have no greater responsibility than to ensure our men and women in uniform are fully trained, equipped, and ready for the challenges they face every day. I believe this bill fulfills that commitment, and I thank the Chairman and the Ranking Member for their work, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back his time. Gentleman from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I now yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. McIntyre, who is the ranking member of the Sea Power Subcommittee.
Gentleman from North Carolina is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank my friend and ranking member Smith, as well as the full committee chairman McKeon, and also thanks to the subcommittee chairman and my good friend Todd Aiken for all of their hard work in helping us not only on this full armed services bill, but also in particular on the Sea Power and Projection Forces portion of this bill, passed with strong bipartisan support in our subcommittee and in the full committee. The work of the subcommittee continues the long tradition in providing strong support for our men and women in uniform. The projects authorized in this bill are critical to our country's ability to project power anywhere in the world at any time. The bill includes $14.9 billion for shipbuilding that would authorize a total of 10 new ships, including 2 Virginia-class submarines, 1 Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, 4 littoral combat ships, 1 San Antonio-class amphibious ship, 1 mobile landing platform ship, and 1 joint high-speed vessel. This mark also authorizes $1.1 billion for the National Defense Sea Lift Fund. There are a number of legislative provisions included in this bill aimed at providing a more efficient way to procure ships and weapons systems. In addition, this bill includes several provisions that require increased oversight over critical programs that will ensure they stay on schedule and on cost. In particular, this bill requires the Comptroller General to conduct an annual review and report on the progress of the KC-46 tanker program. All of these provisions, plus others, represent the subcommittee's commitment to ensuring that all major programs receive the proper oversight to ensure that taxpayer dollars are spent wisely and effectively. This bill is a balanced authorization of programs under the jurisdiction of the subcommittee and meets the needs of our men and women in uniform. Again, I want to thank Chairman Aiken for his hard work. I strongly urge all of my colleagues to support this bill. And with that, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back his time. Gentleman from California.
Mr. Chairman, I yield 2 minutes to my friend and colleague, the chairman of the Subcommittee on Military Personnel, the gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Wilson.
Gentleman from South Carolina is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you and congratulations, Mr. Chairman, on your leadership achieving a 61 favorable vote on the bill that we're considering this evening. As we begin, we're grateful for the professionalism of our military forces in killing the mass murderer Osama bin Laden. It was a proud day for all Americans, especially our military, their families, and veterans, that justice was achieved. The military personnel provisions of the National Defense Authorization Act of 2012 are the product of an open, bipartisan process. Some of the more important personnel provisions are the following: a 1.6% increase in military basic pay, a revised policy for measuring and reporting unit operations tempo and personnel tempo, reflecting the committee's continuing concern about stresses on the force, especially at a time when we must consider our resolve for victory in the current mission requirements. Another important initiative is reform of the military recruiting system to include graduates of homeschooling, charter schools, and virtual schools. I see military service as an opportunity and fulfilling, and these are extraordinary patriots. The bill clarifies the legal authority for the administration and oversight of Arlington National Cemetery. I believe the bill is strong in multiple provisions dealing with sexual assault, child custody, mental health, traumatic brain injury, and post-traumatic stress disorder. In conclusion, I want to thank Ranking Member Susan Davis and her staff for their contributions in support of this process. We benefited from an active and informed and dedicated set of subcommittee members. Their recommendations and priorities are clearly reflected in the bill. Additionally, I appreciate the dedicated military personnel subcommittee staff: John Chaplett, Jeanette James, Mike Higgins, Craig Green, Deborah Wada, Jim Weiss. And I also want to thank Congressional Military Legislative Assistant Brian Isley and Military Fellow Marine Captain Sam Cunningham. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Time has expired. Gentleman from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I now yield 3 minutes to the gentlelady from Guam, Ms. Bordalo, who is the ranking member on the Readiness Subcommittee.
Gentlelady from Guam is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise today in support of H.R. 1540, the National Defense Authorization Act for Fiscal Year 2012. This bill works to ensure our men and women in uniform are well trained and equipped. And I am proud that the House Armed Services Committee, through this bill, continues to close the readiness gaps that have been created in our armed forces by a decade of continuous deployments. This bill authorizes $23 billion for training of all active duty and reserve forces to increase readiness as troops experience longer periods at home following the Iraq drawdown, including $1 billion to support the Army's planned return to full-spectrum training. Also, funding for the Navy ship and aircraft depot-level maintenance and for the upkeep of the Department of Defense facilities. We fully fund the President's budget request for the reset of Army and Marine Corps equipment and for the sustainment of Air Force weapons systems. We provide additional funding to meet the full requirement for upkeep of our military facilities, increased funding to operate Army bases, and authorizes $14.7 billion in military construction. I am pleased that this bill includes a number of initiatives that focus on reducing operational and in installation energy consumption while improving military capabilities. It also reflects the priorities in the area of energy conservation of our colleague Gabriel Giffords, who has been a champion of these issues through the Readiness Subcommittee. The bill supports environmental leadership while putting defense capabilities and missions first. And I also note we have included a provision that extends the Sykes Act coverage to state-owned National Guard facilities and enables development and implementation of integrated natural resources management plans for state-owned National Guard installations. The bill continues our committee's tradition of providing stringent and comprehensive oversight of the military buildup on Guam. The committee remains committed to understanding the importance of the realignment of military forces in the Pacific demonstrated through full authorization of military construction funding. And further, this bill continues to demonstrate its keen understanding of the strategic importance to Guam in responding to the growth of traditional threats in the Pacific region and the freedom of movement that Guam provides our military forces in responding to regional non-traditional threats. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our Chairman, Mr. McKeon, and our Ranking Member, Mr. Smith of the Armed Services Committee, and also to the Chairman of my subcommittee, Mr. Randy Forbes, for conducting the meetings in a very bipartisan manner. And I ask my colleagues to support this very important measure. and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentlelady yields her time. Gentleman from California.
Mr. Chairman, I yield 3 minutes to my friend and colleague, the Chairman of the Subcommittee on Strategic Forces, the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Turner.
Gentleman from Ohio is recognized for 3 minutes.
Well, I thank the gentleman from California, our Chairman, Mr. McKeon, for his leadership in this bill as it's moving through the House, and Ranking Member Smith. I would also like to thank all of my colleagues on the Strategic Forces Subcommittee, and in particular my Ranking Member, Loretta Sanchez, and the staff for their work on this year's Strategic Forces mark. In particular, I would like to thank our Director, Carrie Bingham. This bill builds off a strong bipartisan and bicameral consensus and fully funds the NNSA, the National Nuclear Security Administration, and supports continued modernization of our nuclear forces and infrastructure. It also supports robust oversight of the administration's implementation of the New START Treaty and establishes prudent measures to slow down the rush towards nuclear disarmament. The bill responds to the effects of prior cuts by this administration to missile defense, providing an additional increase of $110 million above the President's request. It adds these funds to fix the system that protects the United States homeland from long-range ballistic missile threats. It also provides an increase in funds to support the implementation of the administration's phased adaptive approach and important cooperative efforts with Japan and Israel, while recommending reductions in future capabilities that are less viable. Equally important, this bill advocates on behalf of service members and their families. I want to thank Chairman Wilson and Ranking Member Davis for incorporating bipartison language from the Zongis-Turner Defense Strong Act that seeks to enhance sexual assault protections as well as improve training requirements to better protect service members. I also want to thank Chairman Wilson for his support for this bill. Includes provisions that would protect the fundamental child custody rights of military parents and ensure that service members do not lose custody of their children as a consequence of their service to the nation. This provision corrects an unconscionable injustice and has the full endorsement of Secretary Gates and the Department of Defense, and I'd like to thank Lieutenant Eva Slusher from Kentucky, who has been working diligently in this fight. And lastly, I would like to note earlier today the President issued a veto threat on several provisions contained in the NDAA related to nuclear modernization and objections to provisions relating to missile defense. This is curious because these provisions are consistent with the administration's own stated policies and that of our NATO allies. By this threat is the President saying he does not intend to implement the nuclear modernization guarantees that were part of the New START Treaty? Does the President intend to unilaterally withdraw nuclear forces from Europe? Does the President want to share sensitive data of missile defense technology with Russia? And does the President intend to strike deals with Russia to limit our missile defense capabilities? If the answer to these questions is no, then the administration should have no objections to these provisions. If, on the other hand, the answer to these questions is yes, then it is all the more reason to make these provisions law. I urge the passage of the National Defense Authorization Act for 2012 and reserve the balance of our time.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I now yield 2.5 minutes to the gentlelady from California, Ms. Davis, the ranking member on the Personnel Subcommittee.
Gentlelady from California is recognized for 2.5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I join my colleagues on the House Armed Services Committee in support of H.R. 1540, the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2012. As the ranking member of the Military Personnel Subcommittee, I want to recognize Chairman McKeon and Ranking Member Smith for their leadership, as well as Subcommittee Chairman Wilson for his bipartisan work to enhance the quality of life for our service members, retirees, survivors, and their families. As Americans, it is our responsibility and our privilege to support our men and women in uniform and their families, given the enormous sacrifices they make to ensure the security of our nation. These men and women have volunteered to give their lives to protect and defend what we hold dear, liberty and freedom. Nothing can substitute for their commitment and sacrifice. And I'm proud to support a 1.6% pay raise in our bill. Our service members have earned this pay raise and deserve no less. I am also pleased that this bill includes authority for the Secretary of Defense to establish apprenticeship programs to help service members transition out of the military. Far too many of our brave men and women are returning home and finding it a challenge to become or remain employed. The number of homeless veterans in our younger generations continues to grow, and apprenticeship programs could provide these individuals the skills they need to succeed. While this bill allows for a modest increase in TRICARE fees, it does protect military retirees and their dependents from future significant hikes by limiting increases to military retiree cost of living allowances. And lastly, this bill continues the efforts by this subcommittee over the last several years to reduce sexual assaults and harassment within the services. This is an important issue that has a direct impact on military readiness, and I want to thank Congresswomen Slaughter, Sanchez, and Tsongas for their hard work. Mr. Speaker, while there are many good provisions in this bill, I must raise my extreme disappointment with several sections that were included by the majority that seek to delay and prevent gays and lesbians from serving in uniform. One of the liberties that we as Americans hold dear is that we are all created equal. These individuals should be entitled to serve their nation in uniform and should not be denied the opportunity. 20 seconds, Mr. Chairman.
Gentlelady, an additional 20 seconds. Heck, I'll give you 30.
How's that? 20 seconds.
I'll yield her an additional 30 seconds, actually. Make it a round number.
Correction, the gentlelady is recognized for an additional 1/2 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A nation that values democracy cannot discriminate against an individual because of their sexual orientation. But I must say, Mr. Speaker, ultimately, I do support this bill. I encourage my colleagues to do the same. And I want to thank the many staff members who have worked very hard on this legislation, and we look forward to this being signed into law. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentlelady yields her time. Gentleman from California.
Mr. Chairman, I yield 2 minutes to my friend and colleague, the Chairman of the Subcommittee on Oversight and Investigations, the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Whitman.
Gentleman from Virginia is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank Chairman McKeon for his leadership on the National Defense Authorization Act and also recognize Ranking Member Smith for his efforts in what I believe is an extraordinarily good bill. I'm pleased today to support H.R. 1540. It recognizes the need for fiscal constraint while at the same time ensuring our nation's security and fulfilling our sacred obligations to our brave men and women in uniform. The bill also strengthens protections against ill-considered efforts to release detainees held at the Guantanamo Bay detention facility. In December, the Director of National Intelligence reported that 25% of those formerly held at Gitmo were confirmed or suspected of returning to the fight against us and our allies. This rate is alarming and unacceptable. I'm concerned that the government did not conduct significant due diligence when identifying detainees for release, and that this failure has potentially grave ramifications for our troops serving on the battlefield. H.R. 1540 strengthens our protections in several important ways. First, it prohibits transfers to foreign countries where there are known cases of re-engagement. It requires careful consideration of established criteria before other transfers are accomplished and mandates that government agencies provide Congress the information we need to properly assess the threats our nation and our troops face from detainees who have rejoined the fight and continue to commit terrorist acts. H.R. 1540 also ensures continued oversight of Arlington National Cemetery, and it directs the timely establishment of the Oversight Council and creates a date certain for record digitization. With that, I urge my colleagues to support H.R. 1540, and I would like to end with thanking the staff, including Michelle Pierce, for their great work in the Oversight and Investigation Subcommittee. Thank you very much, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back his time. Gentleman from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am now pleased to yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Andrews.
Gentleman from New Jersey is recognized for 2 minutes. Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman is recognized.
I thank the Chairman. 23 nights ago, a focused and brave group of young Americans climbed into helicopters and focused on their mission. Over 3 weeks ago, a group of American leaders met in the Situation Room of the White House, focused on their mission. And over a 10-year period, a group of intelligence analysts and signal intelligence specialists and brave Americans all over the world focused on their mission to eliminate the menace of Osama bin Laden from this earth. They succeeded in eliminating that menace, and they succeeded in capturing valuable intelligence that will help us track down his co-conspirators and stop them. And they sent a powerful message to any other evil, rich person that wants to target the United States of America, that such targeting is an act of suicide. We should salute those with that focus here tonight and reflect on the fact that our focus as Republicans and Democrats in passing this bill is to give other focused Americans in the military, our intelligence community, and those who support them the tools they need to do their job. I'm proud of the work that Chairman McKeon, Ranking Member Smith, and all of the subcommittee chairs and ranking members did on this bill. There are controversial aspects of this bill, but this is a work that is focused on the defense of our country in the same tradition as those who so nobly served us 23 days ago. We should all vote and join in a yes vote for this bill because it continues that tradition of our national security in a bipartisan sense. I urge a yes vote and yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from California.
Mr. Chairman, at this time I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Conaway, for the purpose of a colloquy.
Gentleman from Texas is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I rise to engage the distinguished member, the Chairman of the Armed Services Committee, in a colloquy to discuss an issue that I believe is imperative to the financial accountability in the defense intelligence community. Mr. Chairman, I've been working with my colleagues in various congressional committees on language that would improve the ability of the defense intelligence elements to be appropriately audited. While we are not quite to the finish line on final language, I want my colleagues to be aware of this issue as we work on the NDAA this week.
I thank the gentleman from Texas for raising this important issue. As the gentleman is well aware, oversight of DoD financial accountability issues is of high importance for our committee. We continue to work with the Department to ensure they continue aggressive measures to get the Department to a point where we have confidence in their financial statements. Mr. Conaway is a CPA and brings great expertise to the Congress.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for those kind words. While I'm disappointed that we're not able to work out an agreement that would include this language in the NDAA, I do understand that there have been issues raised with the amendment, as currently written, that may not provide the focused solution that we need to track disbursements and better accounting in the intelligence community. I look forward to continuing our work on this and other provisions to provide sufficient and yet directed authority that will improve the financial accountability of the Department of Defense. It is our responsibility, Mr. Chairman, that the American taxpayer, to ensure that the intelligence community has the proper management tools to manage our precious resources that we provide to them.
I applaud the gentleman from Texas on his continued efforts to shine light on financial responsibility at the Pentagon. The language he's working on is certainly needed by the intelligence community to meet the financial accounting standards we require of the rest of the federal government. If all committees can agree upon language, I would welcome the opportunity to support such an amendment.
I want to thank the Chairman for the colloquy and urge adoption of the underlying NDAA, urge a yes vote, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back his time. Gentleman from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Rhode Island, Mr. Langevin.
Gentleman from Rhode Island is recognized for 1 minute. Without objection. Gentleman is recognized.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. Mr. Speaker, while I support the underlying bill, I rise in opposition to language in the National Defense Authorization Act that exempts the Department of Defense from Section 526 of the Energy Independence and Security Act, a critical energy security provision which also supports the development of domestic alternative fuels. Now, this exemption, Mr. Speaker, will derail the DoD's efforts to strengthen national security through reducing dangerous greenhouse gases. Now, the current chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staffs, Admiral Mike Mullen, recently warned that climate change will have a significant effect on increasing competition for water and food, potentially causing humanitarian crises that could lead to failed states. Further, this concern is not new to DoD. In 2008, the Defense Science Board recommended to avoid investing in processes that exceed the carbon footprint of petroleum. Well, this provision proposes to do exactly that. So I would hope that we would like to see remove this language and allow the department to experiment and use alternatives that would not exceed the current limit on current carbon footprint on greenhouse gases. With that, I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from California.
Mr. Chairman, I yield 1.5 minutes to my friend and colleague, a distinguished member of the Armed Services Committee, the gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Runyon.
Gentleman from New Jersey is recognized for 1.5 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman McKeon and Ranking Member Smith, for your leadership on this important legislation for our men and women in uniform, and it is an honor to serve with the both of you. Mr. Speaker, as a result of the 2005 BRAC, Joint Base McGuire-Dick-Lakehurst in my home district was combined into one installation from 3 separate military installations, which caused a problem. This one issue that this committee has addressed is pay parity. Well, currently at Joint Base, which used to be the Fort Dix and McGuire bases, wage grade system employees are paid at a Philadelphia local pay rate. And the Lakehurst side, the people doing the same jobs are paid at a New York local rate. While OPM has indicated they want to resolve this situation, no change has yet been made. The language in the bill will work towards fixing this inequity by requiring OPM to work with the DoD to implement OPM's recommendation with respect to the Department of Defense federal wage system employees working at all military installations. Additionally, I want to recognize my colleagues on the House Armed Services Committee, Congressman Rob Andrews and Congressman Frank Lubiano, for their work on this issue, as well as Congressman Chris Smith of New Jersey, who has also been active in assisting the employees at Joint Base. Again, I thank you, Chairman McKeon and Ranking Member Smith, for your support on this, and I want to express my strong support of H.R. 1540 and our nation's warfighters. And I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I now yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Connecticut, Mr. Courtney, for purposes of a colloquy.
Gentleman from Connecticut is recognized for 1/2 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Andrews, who I would like to enter into a colloquy with, during the full committee markup of the Defense Authorization Bill, you offered and the committee supported an amendment which would, quote, ensure that the Secretary, at no cost to the federal government, provides support and allows for the use of such property by the contractor under such contract to conduct research, development, testing, and evaluation of the F-136 engine if such activities are self-funded by the contractor.
Gentleman will yield. That is correct.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. I simply would like to reiterate that it is your intention and understanding that there is no government funding provided to the F-136 contractors by your amendment in any section of this bill.
Gentleman will further yield. It is my understanding and intent that there be no FY12 government funding for the F-136 contractor.
I thank my colleague and yield back the balance of my time.
Yields back his time. Gentleman from California.
Mr. Chairman, I yield 1 minute to my friend and colleague, a distinguished member of the Armed Services Committee, the gentleman from Indiana, Mr. Young.
Gentleman from Indiana is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, as a former U.S. Marine, I understand the importance of a strong national defense, especially during this time of war. That's why I'm glad to rise in support of this National Defense Authorization Act of 2012. It provides our troops with the resources they need and enables them to carry out the missions we've asked of them. Now, I'd like to especially thank our chairman, Chairman McKeon, for his leadership in this process. In particular, I can say as a freshman, he's taken great time and attention to the issue of reforming how we do our quadrennial defense review. And he said that we need to take a further look at this in the future. This, I believe, is a key to ensuring that we efficiently spend our defense dollars as we look to next year's bill. But this bill addresses the military issues we face today. It does so in a responsible manner, and it's being offered with an eye to improving the process in the future. And so that's why I am supporting this National Defense Authorization Act. I urge my colleagues to vote yes on this bill, and I will yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back his time. Gentleman from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am now pleased to yield 1 minute to the gentleman from California, Mr. Garamendi.
Gentleman from California is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's much in this bill to recommend, particularly the way in which it deals with the men and women that are in arms, the support that they need, the benefits that they require, and the care that they require following their missions. However, there is in this bill a missed opportunity, and I must therefore oppose the bill, the opportunity to change the direction of the war in Afghanistan, a war that seems without end and a war that seems to be perpetual. The successful raid and the successful taking of bin Laden is an opportunity to pivot, and we are missing that opportunity in this bill and continuing to spend over $100 billion on that war in Afghanistan. Also in this bill is Section 1034, a continued authorization for the use of force. That, too, must be eliminated. For those reasons, I oppose this legislation. I yield back my time.
Gentleman yields back his time. Gentleman from California.
Mr. Chairman, I yield 1 minute to my friend and colleague, the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Nagelbauer. 2 minutes.
Gentleman from Texas is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Chairman McKeon, for allowing me to speak today. Mr. Chairman, I rise today in support of the B-1 bomber. My district, the 19th Congressional District of Texas, is home of 5,000 military and 1,000 civilian personnel at Dyess Air Force Base located in Abilene, Texas. The Dyess houses among missions of the 7th Bomb Wing, representing 36 of the 66 remaining B-1 Lancer bombers. As I testified before the Armed Services Committee last month, I am concerned about the proposed cuts to the B-1 fleet. And let me tell you why. Since 2001, the B-1 has flown over 70% of the bomber combat missions while representing only 40% of the bomber fleet. Before combat in Libya, the B-1 bomber was the only bomber to be used in combat since May of 2006. And is used heavily at that. In fact, the B-1 is in air support training troops deployed in the Middle East almost every day. The B-1 has flown over 8,000 sorties for the past several years and has logged over 93,000 hours of operation over Iraq and Afghanistan in the last decade. Last year alone, it flew 1,253 missions and dropped 741 bombs. By any measure, the B-1 is the backbone of the bomber fleet. I'm very pleased that the committee has decided to change the recommendation of the administration, and I look forward to working with the chairman to make sure that America's bomber fleet is the cutting edge in the future. We don't have a replacement for the B-1, and it's important until at such time we get a replacement bomber that we make sure that we maintain the fleet that we have today, because particularly the B-1 is one of our most used weapon systems currently in Iraq and Afghanistan. And so I look forward to working with the chairman and the committee as we make sure that America's security is never compromised. And with that, I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back his time. Gentleman from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I inquire as to how much time both sides have remaining?
Gentleman from Washington has 4 1/2 minutes remaining.
We don't have any more speakers, so I was just going to wrap up on our side against it as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield myself the balance of the time.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you. Again, I just want to thank the chairman and the staff for putting together an outstanding bill. This is no small enterprise. It's $691 billion. It's critical policy to provide for the national security for our country, critical policy to make sure that our troops and their families are properly taken care of. They have the equipment and support that they need to do the job that we ask them to do. And I think Mr. McKeon, the members of the committee and the staff have done an outstanding job. I do want to also recognize our past chairman, Mr. Skelton. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, there is a strong bipartisan tradition on this committee. Mr. Skelton upheld that very well, and Mr. McKeon has done so as well. It was an honor to work with Mr. Skelton. I appreciate his leadership and guidance for all those of us on the committee. I do just want to mention one issue that I neglected to mention in my opening remarks, and that is to associate myself with the remarks of Mr. Langerman with regard to the energy amendment that was contained in this bill. I think it's critical that we give the Department of Defense the ability to pursue alternative sources of energy that actually do improve our position in terms of greenhouse gases and improve our position in terms of reducing our dependency on, increasing our ability to use clean burning sources of fuel. The amendment that was attached to this would allow the use of fuels, would allow to be considered alternative the use of fuels that really aren't. They are not clean burning or renewable. So I think that it is imperative that we strike that provision from this bill. But overall, I'm very supportive of the bill. I appreciate the chairman's leadership. I look forward to working with him over the course of the next couple of days as we deal with the amendments that are coming our way and as we go into conference with the Senate to hopefully get this bill done to the President for signature. It is critical to our national security interests that we do that, and I thank the Chairman again for his leadership, and with that I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back the balance of his time. Gentleman from California.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield myself such time as I have left.
Gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, one of the great things on serving in this committee, experience that I've had, is getting to know Mr. Smith during these last few months much better than previously, and the members of the staff who have worked so hard and so diligent to get us to this point. Last week, week before, when we marked this up in full committee, we went from 10 in the morning till 2:30 the next morning, and everybody was at work again the next day, ready to go. We get to meet with the troops. We get to see the young people, and some that are not so young, serving us around the world to preserve our freedoms and freedoms of other peoples. And our job is to do all we can to help make their job easier, to help make their job, help, as I said earlier, give them the equipment, the training, the leadership, the time, all the resources that they need to return home safely to their families. And I think this bill does that. I feel very good about all of the members of the committee, the hard work that they have done to get us to this point. I look forward to the next few days working on the amendments and turning out a final finished product, and hopefully then we can encourage the other body to get their work done, and we can get this bill as our 50th bill to the President for his signature. With that, I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back the balance of his time. All time for general debate has expired. Under the rule, the committee rises.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union, having had under consideration H.R. 1540, directs me to report that it has come to no resolution thereon.
Chairman of the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union reports the committee has had under consideration H.R. 1540 and has come to no resolution thereon.
69 and Rule 18, the Chair declares the House and the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union for further consideration of H.R. 1216. Will the gentleman from Arkansas, Mr. Womack, kindly take the chair?
The House is in the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union for further consideration of H.R. 1216, which the clerk will report by title.
A bill to amend the Public Health Service Act to convert funding for graduate medical education and qualified teaching health centers from direct appropriations to an authorization of appropriations.
When the Committee of the Whole House, when the Committee of the Whole House rose earlier today, pending was Amendment number 7, printed in the Congressional Record, offered by the gentlewoman from North Carolina, Ms. Fox. Is that correct? Who's going to be recognized? For what purpose does the gentleman from New York wish to be recognized?
I move to strike the last word, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection, the gentleman from New York is recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, you may recall I was standing here approximately 2 hours ago waiting to speak with several other members on the efforts of my Republican friends to eliminate Medicare as we know it. And for reasons that are known only to the Chair, I was denied the ability to do that. Well, I'm back. And just to review the bidding, here's where it was before that order was made. We had the chairman of the Republican Congressional Campaign Committee, a good man, a guy I like, stand down in the well and say, oh no, and this, by the way, is someone who was elected by the Republican members to represent him in races all around the country, saying that the Ryan plan wasn't a plan, it was, and I'm quoting here, to construct to develop a plan. And he said that the proposal was not a voucher program. And then he said it was a one-size-fits-all, that Medicare was draining our economy, is what he said. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that might be the rationale for our Republican friends wanting to eliminate Medicare, but none of those things are true. It is not a construct to develop a plan. It is the proposal of the Republican Party of the United States of America to eliminate Medicare as a guaranteed entitlement. If you don't believe me, go get the book that they wrote, go get the budget that they wrote, go get the bill that they wrote. And if you believe that it's not a voucher program, listen to their own members talk about it. The Medicare program today is not, I say to my friends, one size fits all. My good friend from Georgia, Mr. Gingrey, was on the floor before talking about how it's one size fits all. How can it possibly be you can be a member of the United States House of Representatives and not understand how Medicare works? Each individual senior gets to go to the doctor of their choosing, gets to go to the clinic of their choosing, gets to decide for themselves where they go. And then the doctor and the patient make decisions. The only question is, are we going to say to citizens who are 65 and older, here's a coupon, go buy private insurance at 25% and 30% overhead, rather than the Medicare program, which the actuaries say costs 1.05% in overhead. We've also heard them say, you're demagoguing, we don't really want to get rid of it. You do. Now, there is a saying here in Washington that a gaffe is when the Republicans actually say what they think. So there have been plenty of opportunities to see this gaffe in full play. Now, they've been tying themselves in intellectual knots trying to get out from under the basic fact. By the way, I hope your insurance plan, the Ryan plan, covers the twisted arms and limbs you get tying yourselves in knots explaining this. It is a radical departure from where we are today. Mr. Gingrich was right. Even the blind squirrel can find a nut once in a while. He was right. It's a radical departure, but it's yours. Own it. Show a little gumption. Show that you're prepared to own your own proposals. But now that you want to do it, and the American people are seeing the difference between Democrats and Republicans, now you're trying to squirrel your way out of it, with no disrespect to squirrels. You say we don't have a plan. Not only did we pass a health care plan a year ago that extended 10 years for life expectancy of Medicare, but I'll go one better. I'll give you a plan. How about Medicare not starting at 65? What about 55? Or 45? Or 35? What is it that health insurance companies do in this country? Now, I know my Republican friends are wholly owned subsidiaries of the Republican Party, but that of the insurance industry, but that should not mean that our seniors lose their Medicare because of it. So my friend Mr. Sessions and Mr. Gingrich are trying desperately to try to figure out how to get out from under your own beliefs. We believe in Medicare. We created it. We believe in Social Security. We created it. We believe in the Health Care Act. We created it. As a matter of fact, every improvement to health care in this country, Democrats proposed, Republicans opposed, and now they have a chance to get rid of it, and they're doing it. But at least if you're going to do it, at least if you're going to try to do it, don't try to silence people who point it out. And I think the lesson here is it might be later. If you had me come back at midnight, I would have said it. If I came back at 2 a.m., I would have said it. Because the American people are going to see what's going on here. You have a proposal to eliminate Medicare, a proposal to privatize a portion of Social Security by investing in the stock market, a proposal to roll back the expansion of prescription drug coverage for seniors. You have a proposal to take away the benefits of those 25 and younger to be able to get health insurance. That is your proposal. Own it. Live with it. Embrace it. Because we're not going to let you get out from under it. And you may delay me, you may gavel me, you may tell me you got to come back at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's not going to change the fundamentals of this debate. That if you believe fundamentally in Medicare, at this point, you got two choices. Tear up your Republican Party membership or give up control of Congress, and frankly, some of you are going to have to do both.
Gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from New Jersey wish to be recognized?
Strike the last word, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. I want to continue this debate on the Medicare issue because I do believe from looking at the Republican budget that they do intend to end Medicare. It's quite clear. And, you know, the irony of this is that when the Democrats were in the majority, we were trying to expand health care options, provide everybody with health insurance, and now what we see is that the Republicans, when they take the majority, are trying to get rid of really the best health insurance program that the nation has ever seen, and that's Medicare. No one would argue that Medicare has not been successful. The fact of the matter is that before we had Medicare, which, as my colleague from New York mentioned, was a Democratic initiative, what would seniors do? Well, seniors couldn't get health insurance because, as you know, when you get to be over 65 or if you're disabled, people don't want to give you health insurance because it costs too much. You're in the hospital too much. You have too many health care needs. And so seniors basically couldn't find health insurance. They were really at the mercy, if you will, of whatever they could find, or if they got sick, they had to go to hospital, or they had to go to a doctor and pay out of pocket in many cases. And so when the Democrats came along and Lyndon Johnson said, look, this is something that we need because seniors can't get health insurance, well, they initiated Medicare. And the fact of the matter is that almost every Republican voted against Medicare then, and they've never liked it because they know it's a government program. They don't like government programs. So if anyone on the other side of the aisle is trying to tell me, I don't know that they are, but if they're trying to suggest that somehow by voting for this budget that ends Medicare, that they didn't really mean it, I would say look at their history. Look at the history of opposing Medicare, of opposing Medicaid, of opposing even Social Security when Franklin Roosevelt and the Democratic Congress put it together. Now, you know, I want to point out what happens when seniors don't have Medicare anymore and they have to go buy insurance on the private market. Well, basically what that does is it puts the insurance companies back in charge again. And that's no surprise. This is what the Republicans want. They always stand with the special interests, big oil, big banks, Wall Street, and, of course, the insurance companies. And the insurance companies don't like Medicare because they can't make any money. They want to be able to make money. They want to take cherry pick, if you will. If you're over 65 and they figure you're in good health, then maybe they'll give you insurance if you want to go and buy it because they'll figure that, you know, you might be a good risk and they can charge you a lot of money and they can give you a bare bones policy that doesn't cover anything. Remember that Medicare not only provides a guaranteed insurance policy that you can buy, that you get, I should say, from the government when you're over 65, regardless of your health status or of your income, but you also get a pretty generous insurance plan that covers a lot of things. You put the insurance companies back in charge, and not only will they not offer insurance to a lot of seniors at a decent price, but for those who they do sell the insurance to, it's not going to be a package that covers what most seniors are going to need. So it's not only that Medicare is important because it guarantees you coverage, but it also guarantees you a pretty generous coverage, which you need when you're 65 or when you're disabled. Now, you know, some have said, well, you know, some of the Republicans I hear say, well, don't worry, senior citizens. We may be ending Medicare, but it's only going to be ending for those who are now 55. If you're 65 years old, you can continue to have it. But if you're 55 or under, when you get to be 65, it's no longer going to be available. So if you're a senior citizen now, don't worry about it. Well, I don't know too many seniors who think that way, because I know they worry about everybody, including not just themselves, but their children and their grandchildren. But besides that, I would also point out that this Republican budget eliminates two other things. First of all, we as Democrats, when we were in charge of the House, we put in place a program to close the prescription drug donut hole. So that, you know, if you reach the donut hole, now as of January 1st, 50% of your coverage, 50% of your costs are covered. And eventually you're going to have no costs in the donut hole. It's going to be eliminated completely. Well, the Republican budget repeals that. So it goes back to leaving this gaping hole, whereas if you're out of pocket in drug costs in the course of a year, like $2,500 or more, then you're not going to get your prescription drugs covered. So it also, for current Medicare holders, senior citizens, opens up that donut hole again, so you're going to pay all this money out of pocket. In addition to that, it repeals a Democratic provision that's now law that says that you don't have co-pays for preventative care. So if you're a senior or disabled, you need a mammogram, you need certain kind of testing done, you don't pay a co-pay. The Republican budget also abolishes that. This is devastating for senior citizens, current and future.
Gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Pennsylvania wish to be recognized?
Mr. Speaker, move to strike the last word.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do support the Fox Amendment. As I've listened to all the discussion on the floor, much of it dealing most recently with, not with the Fox Amendment, actually with Medicare, which always catches my attention. See, Mr. Speaker, I actually have, before I came into this position in Congress just a little over 2 years ago, 3 years ago now, I actually worked in the healthcare field. I worked specifically serving individuals that utilize Medicare. I was a therapist, a licensed nursing home administrator, manager of rehabilitation services. In the Balanced Budget Act in 1997, I actually was recruited by the Medicare agency. It was the Healthcare Finance Administration then. Now it's the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, to serve in the technical expert panel. So that's why when I hear this rhetoric from the other side about that the Republicans are trying to end Medicare, I find that just not accurate. And that's based on 30 years of experience of working with Medicare, developing an expertise with the Medicare policy, to be invited to be a part of the technical expert panel on Medicare. The fact is, when I came to Washington in January 2009, I thought all 435 members of Congress understood that the looming crisis in Washington was Medicare, and Medicare was one of them. And that Medicare, frankly, was going to go bankrupt. It was going to go insolvent. And if we didn't reform Medicare, it would go away. And how immoral is that for all the Americans out there that to contribute to the Medicare, pay for their Medicare, invest in their Medicare, and that it would not be there when it came time for them to get Medicare? And so I'm actually just a little shocked, Mr. Speaker, by the rhetoric. And the fact is, if we want to save Medicare, we need to do exactly what the Republicans are proposing, and that is to reform it, to save it. We have even the Medicare trustees just 2 weeks ago came out and they said that the Medicare program was going to be insolvent 5 years sooner than what they originally predicted. Now, what does insolvent mean, Mr. Speaker? Insolvent means going bankrupt. Insolvent means going away. Insolvent means all the seniors that have paid into this system won't be there for them. We have a duty and an obligation, a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that Medicare is there. This side of the aisle is the only ones that are working on keeping Medicare for our seniors. By No, I won't, sir. You had your opportunity to speak. I only have about 5 minutes, so I want to continue. You know, what we're proposing is premium supports. It's not vouchers. It's not privatizing. It's premium supports. And premium supports, the best model that you can look at for that is Medicare Part D, the pharmaceutical program. Medicare Part D gives seniors the opportunity to pick from plans that work for them, that are customized to their needs. Medicare Part D, for those who don't know, it has to do with prescriptions with pharmaceuticals. And we provide premium supports so that they can pick the plans that work for them, so that they can make sure they get the prescriptions that they need to have. It's actually been a plan that, frankly, it's one of the few government plans that has come in under budget. Most government plans don't come in under budget. They come in way over budget. Medicare Part D did. It also speaks to me as Medicare Part C, which is Medicare Managed Care. Medicare Managed Care, Medicare Advantage, which unfortunately the Patient Protection Affordable Care Act attacked and went after, the Medicare Part C program provides for wellness and prevention. It actually, folks that have been, seniors that have had Medicare Part C has had a program that's been allowed to emphasize prevention and wellness. And the statistics show that where the people engaged in that program, they have been hospitalized fewer times, and those hospitalizations for fewer days. And you know what? That keeps them well. It keeps them healthy. And that's what health care should be all about, keeping people healthy. And the other thing it does is it saves taxpayer dollars. That's a win-win as far as I'm concerned. So we're talking about premium supports that take concepts from Medicare Part D and Medicare Part C, and we're going to apply those premium supports to the Medicare program. Mr. Speaker, I think it is important that people understand that if we do not reform Medicare, Medicare will go bankrupt, Medicare will be insolvent, and Medicare won't be there.
Would the gentleman yield then?
No, sir.
It sounded like you were wrapping up and you have time. That's why I'm asking you to yield.
Well, when the Speaker tells me I'm done, I'll be done.